Hi, I'm Miss Ford, first grade teacher here at Holbrook, and I am going to read chapters 43, 44, and 45 of our book of the month, Crenshaw. Chapter 43 begins on page 203 if you want to follow along. About an hour later, our landlord came by to our apartment. He had an envelope in his hand. He hugged my mom and shook my dad's hand and said he wished things could be different. I knew what the paper was because I could see the words at the top. It said Final Eviction Notice, which meant we had to leave the apartment. My dad leaned against the wall. There wasn't anywhere to sit anymore. Kids, he said, looks like we're going to be taking a little drive. To Grandma's? Asked Robin. Not exactly, said my mom. She slammed a cupboard door shut. My dad knelt down next to Robin. He had to use his cane to keep steady. We have to move, baby, but it will be fun, you'll see. Robin's eyes bored into me. You told me it would be okay, Jax, she said. You lied. I didn't lie. I lied. This isn't Jackson's fault, Robin, Mom said. Don't blame him, blame us. I didn't want to hear any more. I ran to my room. Crenshaw was lying on my bed. I sat next to him, and when I buried my head in his fur, he didn't object. He purred loudly. I cried a little, but not much. There wasn't any point. Once I read a book called Why Cats Purr and Other Feline Mysteries. Turns out nobody knows for sure why cats purr. It's surprising how much stuff adults don't know. Chapter 44. At 4 that afternoon, Marisol came to the door. She was wearing flip-flops and flowered pajamas. She had the Gouchers, Dachshunds, Frank, and Beans with her. Did you forget? She asked. You were supposed to meet me. I apologized and took Frank's leash. As we started down the sidewalk, I was surprised to see Crenshaw walking ahead of us. Not as surprised as I might have been a day or two ago, but still, there he was, gliding along on his hind legs, doing the occasional cartwheel or handstand. I didn't know how to tell Marisol why we were leaving. I'd never told her about our money problems, although she may have guessed by the way I didn't offer her anything to eat when she came over, or by the way my clothes were always a little bit too small. I wasn't lying exactly. It was more that I left out certain facts and focused on others. I didn't want to do it, of course. I liked facts. And so did Marisol. But sometimes facts were just too hard to share. I decided to tell Marisol something about a sick relative, about how we had to go take care of him, and about how it was an all of a sudden kind of thing. But just as I started to speak, Crenshaw leaned close and whispered in my ear, "The truth, Jackson." I squeezed my eyes shut and counted to 10. Slowly. 10 seconds seemed like the right amount of time for me to stop being crazy. I opened my eyes. Marisol was smiling at me. And then I told her everything. I told her about how worried I'd been and how we were hungry sometimes and how afraid I was about what might come next. We walked toward the school playground. Crenshaw strode ahead and rocketed down the tube slide. When he got to the bottom, he looked at me and nodded approvingly. And then, I don't know why, I told Marisol one more fact. I told her about Crenshaw. Chapter 45. I waited for her to tell me I was nuts. Look, Marisol knelt down to scratch Beans behind the ear. We don't know everything. I don't know why my brothers feel the need to burp the alphabet. I don't know why I like to build things. I don't know why there are no rainbow M&Ms. Why do you have to understand everything, Jackson? I like not knowing everything. It makes things more interesting. Science is about facts. Life is about facts. Crenshaw is not a fact, I shrugged. If you understand how something happens, then you can make it happen again, or not happen. You want Crenshaw to go away? Yes, I said loudly, and then more softly, no, I don't know. She smiled. I wish I could see him. Black, white, hairy, I said, extremely tall. What's he doing right now? One-handed push-ups? You're kidding me. I'd love to see that. I groaned. Look, it's okay. Go ahead and call a psychiatrist. Have me committed. Marisol punched me in the shoulder. Hard. Ow! I cried. Hey! You're annoying me, she said. Look, if I were worried about you, I'd tell you so. I'm your friend, but I don't think you're going crazy. You think it's normal to have a giant kitty taking bubble baths in your house? Marisol puckered her lips like she had just chewed a lemon. Remember in second grade when that magician came to the school fair? He was so lame. Remember how you went behind the stage and figured out how he was making the rabbit appear, and then you told everybody? I grinned, figured it out right away. But you took the magic away, Jackson. I liked thinking about that little gray bunny appearing thinking that little gray bunny appeared in a man's hat. I liked believing it was magic. But it wasn't. He had a hole in the hat, and Marisol covered her ears. I didn't care, she cried, punching me again, and I still don't care. Ow, I said again. Jackson, Marisol said, just enjoy the magic while you can, okay? I didn't answer. We walked in silence, following our usual route. Past the little park with the fountain. Past the bike path I'd ridden a zillion times, back when I had a bike. Past the place where I broke my arm popping a wheelie. Past the sign that said, Welcome to Swan Lake Village. I read that swans stay together for life, Marisol said. Usually, I said, not always. You and I will be friends for life, Marisol said. She stated it like any nature fact, like she just said the grass was green. I don't even know where my family's going. Doesn't matter. You can send me postcards. You can email me from the library. You'll find a way. I kicked at a stone. I'm glad I told you about Crenshaw, I said. Thank you for not laughing. I can practically see him, said Marisol. He's doing backflips on my front lawn. Actually, he's doing the splits in your driveway. I said practically see him, she smiled at me. Fun fact, Jackson, you can't see sound waves, but you can hear music. Come back for chapter 46.